earlier, coming out of the weekend, the Giants had squared up against the San Diego Padres. And in a game where the Giants were leading quite handedly, they decided, not to risk it and broke some unwritten rules in the game of baseball. There are unwritten rules in baseball, and I find unwritten rules stupid. I think the idea that you suddenly let up on a game because you're leading by a certain amount of runs, that you don't try to hit a home run off of a position player because they were brought into the ball game. You're supposed to, if you hit it on a 3-1 count, it's fine. But if you swing at a 3-0 fatty, it's an unwritten rule. Also,
That's your main Mercedes, how that works?
Yeah, exactly. You're not allowed to bunt or steal bases when you have like a 4 or 5 run lead. And that's what the Giants did. The Giants kept the pressure on. San Diego has a lot of offense there. And again, I don't understand the unwritten rules of baseball. I never have. I've never.
It's about not showing up the other team is what it comes down to. It's about fragile egos.
Yeah.
That's what's sad about it.
I think it's all bullshit. And I don't ever recall when I was playing, in high school or Little League ever when suddenly our coaches were like, we're up by 8 runs. Just go up there and
I would actually understand that more on the amateur level where you're not trying to destroy the self-esteem of some kid that, has no future in the game. These are professional athletes that are paid to win games, win and lose games. They're paid for their stats. They're paid to get hits. They're paid for their RBI. They're paid for their WAR. So if they have a chance to increase that or decrease the other guys, I don't know how this ever became a tradition in baseball where you specifically can't if you keep trying throughout the end of a game, even a blowout, you're a bad person. You are violating the unwritten rules. It's insane.
Yeah. And it got so bad that the Giants' first base coach, Antoan Richardson, got into it with the third base coach of San Diego, Mike Shildt, to the point of where Shildt yelled at Gabe Kapler, "Control that motherfucker." Now, Richardson, who I believe is, where is he from? He's not the Dominican Republic, but he identifies as black. He felt that comment had racial undertones to where after the game, he said to reporters he felt it had racial undertones, as if I was to be controlled or a piece of property or enslaved. And that's important that we understand when we do make comments and we do take action, what that means for communities. The crazier part of this is it's Shildt yelling at Richardson, but the ump ends up ejecting Richardson. Now, when Richardson gets ejected out of all this madness, a really cool moment happens in baseball because of it. Defensive instructor, coach for the Giants, Alyssa Nakken, became the first ever female coach to actually coach on the field. There's never been a female coach on the field in baseball. Eric Hosmer shook her hand in a very touching moment at first base, and it was really a cool moment for baseball.
It's crazy that such a weird thing led to such a cool historic moment. That's how. I mean, I'm sure that's not how she planned it or hoped it would work out, but it happened. So there it is.
Yeah, there it is. And the next day, the air was cleared. Both Shildt and Richardson held a press conference together because Richardson was so bothered by it that he scheduled a meeting with Shildt because he didn't.
I actually saw that they met on the field and you know, just an impromptu, just man to man, nothing with the press around, but it was caught on camera at least. And they shook hands. You could tell there was an understanding. There was no more animosity or whatever. That could have been. And
then they did make statements to the camera.
Okay.
And I think it was just covered locally. I was watching the Giants game.
No, that was a national story. That was a big deal.
I know it was a national story, but it was, I know the the on the field interviews were showing prior to the start of the game. So, that was good to see. But it is like, the whole dynamic there, the fact that someone gets so upset at a team over calling for a bunt and telling someone to steal and all that, and to where they're yelling at the coaches from the dugout, and Bob Melvin, put his hands up and looked at Gabe Kapler I think it was after the bunt. Like, what the hell are you doing? I think he said. And it's like, I don't know, we're just trying to make sure we win this ball game. I mean, why a 12-5 game seems like a team can't come back from it is beyond me.
Gabe Kapler actually had made some really salient points. That was the first game of a 3-game series, I think. That is a point where if you get more pitches on their relief staff, you could affect games 2 and games 3. There's some logic behind trying to wear out the opposition's bullpen as much as you can, especially early in a series. So it was interesting because it was reported that it looked like he was kind of scolding. I forget who the guy that bunted was. I forget his last name, but it looked like he was kind of scolding him on the bench at the time. Similar to Tony La Russa and your main Mercedes the last year in the famous broken unwritten rule where he hit a massive home run off of a position player. But the big difference is in the press conference, at least, Gabe Kapler had his players back and was coming up with those reasons why it makes sense, at least logically, to wear out the other team. That could pay dividends, not just in that game, but games down the road, where TLR had the complete opposite. He thought they should throw at his own player. He kind of condoned it, which was that you and I covered that extensively at the time and led to the eventual complete demise of your main Mercedes. So I think maybe Gabe Kapler saw that situation and saw the proper way to deal with it and had his players back, at least publicly, and diffused the whole thing. I don't think it's been an issue going forward. So
no,
I think that might be the difference in 50 years of age, 40 years of age.
Well, I mean, anyone who's La Russa's age is definitely going to be part of the unwritten rule. Any coach who's probably in their actually 60s or above is going to be part of the unwritten rule club.
I think it's mostly an age thing, but it seems to persist in baseball no matter what age, and I'll never understand it. And hopefully it goes away.
I think when we get through the cycle where guys like Fernando Tatis and Tim Anderson and those guys are rolling off of playing baseball, and then I don't know, maybe some of them will go into coaching or they'll be up in the booth or whatever. That's where you're going to start to see that change over, where you're not going to hear about these unwritten rules. And
I think we're starting to see that, and this is going to be the tumultuous time as we transition away from that. There's going to be a part of the baseball culture that's going to bristle at it, and there's going to be part of it that doesn't, and there's going to be more and more incidents like this until there are fewer and fewer as those old fuckers die off, and those old attitudes go away. So it's going to be a while, but it might be changing.
Word Hole Media.